Join us as we go beyond the pixels in the Gamer's Edge podcast, the show that takes you behind the scenes of video gaming. Each episode dives into the realms of gaming and esports, bringing you exclusive interviews with both rising stars and seasoned veterans, coaches, insightful commentators, and industry leaders. So whether you're an aspiring pro gamer, a dedicated fan, or simply curious about the inner workings of gaming and esports, grab your headset and join us on this thrilling adventure through the virtual arenas where victory, camaraderie, and endless adventure await.
What is going on, guys? Welcome into episode 1 of the Gamer's Edge podcast. You will not believe who my guest is. Evan, how are we doing today?
Who is it? I was going to say, who is it? No, I'm good, man. I'm great. I'm happy to be here. And, it's funny how I'm here because I've been doing a podcast, Cody, and I saw you reach out about the podcast. And, I normally don't respond to people, but I just figured, you know what? The timing's so perfect on this. Like, let's do it. Let's go. And so I said yes, and I'm happy to be here, man. And I'm excited for what you got for me.
Hopefully I'm going to be bringing some questions that might make you think a little bit.
Okay.
We definitely want to try and get inside the mind of gamers, coaches, commentators, everything like that.
Awesome.
So I guess really I want you to take me back with this first one. It's going to be kind of a generic one right off the bat, but of course your time at UCLA. Not many people know you were actually drafted by DC United, yet you walked away from the MLS to pursue this. Now, did that competitive nature of collegiate soccer help you in that drive and determination to pursue this path?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, right? Because I think everything in life is connected. So I think we all, take stuff that we've done since childhood or as a teen, and we've developed, and those habits are the same habits that show up, in our work environments, in our home environments. And for me, I think I was just such a soccer guy. I mean, it's funny looking back at it because I was such a soccer player. That was my entire identity. And I think that it's weird for people who only know me as a gamer, or like this athlete background, because before that, it was like you only knew me as a soccer player. And, I mean, from every party that I didn't go to everything I had to say no to, the early to beds, the early to rises. And I think just the way that my schedule was, everyone kind of knew Evan is, he's got this number one priority, and then everything else falls behind it. And I think that was actually when I got drafted and, playing 4 years at UCLA, when that was kind of coming to a head, and I realized that opportunity was, I don't know, it was changing, Cody. It was becoming something where it was one thing. It was my identity. It was how I got into college. It was how I paid for college. It was potentially a career. It was something I was incredibly talented at and good at. I'd won national championships and golden boots, and, all through my career, represented the United States on our national team and our U17s or U18s. I mean, I had checked a lot of boxes off. And I just got to the point where I realized I'm starting in a completely different journey now. And that journey is doing it as a pro. And I kind of, for gamers out there, you could be really good in the amateur scene, you could be really good in even the high level. But once you get signed to a team and you're in the league and you're just running through those things, now it's a whole new journey of playing against the best of the best every day. And you got to put in just as much work, like as if you just started. And I think I just got a little tired of it. I think I was really more excited to explore other parts of myself. And I also, and this was just because of the MLS at that time, 10 years ago, was looking at something around 40 grand to give up finishing school and my scholarship and move into a very expensive city. And it wasn't worth it. It wasn't worth it for me. So my reconciliation of that concept was, in 3 months, I can go back and keep pursuing it. My agent's still here. I had some offers that I could go to maybe Turkey in a third division team. I could go back with the Sounders. The Seattle Sounders had actually called me and trialed me several times, during my senior year. The Galaxy, we knew people. LAFC, we knew people, or Chivas at that time. And so, yeah, there was a lot of options. And I just felt like if it's meant to be, it will be. And the second I said I stopped, I was like, man, I think I did it. I think there's something new ahead of me. And of course, that part of me has always been in how I've done YouTube and gaming and stuff, taking that competitive and all the things that I've learned, into what I do now. So, it's a huge part of my life. It's a huge part of how I cast, how I talk about moments. It's a huge part of my whole personality on broadcast. And it's because I have this experience that not everybody has, and I love to lean on that. So that's definitely what I love about being honest with my past and bringing it to whatever I do.
So it's funny that it's soccer that has propelled you. I actually played soccer all the way through high school as well, even coaching
Really?
youth soccer. Oh, I love it. That balance, though, from going from balancing school, you said it yourself, you're now taking that next step, potentially going into the pros. Now you are pro at casting. Like, I cannot put into words, like, content creation, everything like that. Everything is on that next level for you.
I appreciate it.
So where do you find that balance as a esports broadcaster, content creator, and with other aspects for other hobbies and stuff like that? Do you still kick the ball around? I mean, is there a balance between everything, and of course home life balance and everything like that?
Yeah, I mean, this is well, if Cody, people knew how to answer that question, then they'd know the secrets to life, right? I mean, divorce rate would go way down. Everybody would be happy. No, I actually just got back from playing soccer and doing one of my hobbies, which is giving back, working with teens and adults, facilitating these self-development workshops, which I was really privileged to do. I kind of had I don't know, like a perfect potion of parents skills that kind of led me to this, because my dad is a group facilitator and has done it for 30, 40 years. And this is all over. He was just in Bulgaria, in Utah. He came back to do one in LA. He's leaving again to go Toronto to do one. And this is like, my uncle does that too. So I have this, I know how to work with people and be in front of a crowd. And I have this, sports background. So it's stuff that I think also, as it's a part of what I do professionally, it's also its own separate thing that I try to give credit to and go back to as much as I can away from work. And I think a lot of people see me disappear online. Sometimes I'll go a month or two, I won't do a video, but that's because I'll be working on these events. And that time that I would have made a video, I'm volunteering, doing a workshop with my dad, which is what I just finished doing for the past 5 days. And I did play some soccer there as well,
Nice.
During lunchtime. And I, to be fair, this is the only time I'm really going to say this and it's going to make sense. I kicked some teenagers' butts, right? I mean, I made sure that they understood, I came from some place where we knew how to pass and score a few goals. So, they learned, but we had a lot of fun. And I think that helped ground me, but, it's a great question, because how do you handle burnout? How do you handle trying to push all these levers? I've always been of a mind that if you look at this from the long-term perspective, and from soccer, I knew there was a cap. I knew there was 30, 40. If you're insane and a very skilled player, you play the right position. You can't be like a forward at 40, but maybe you can transition into, a defensive mid or some type of,
maybe a sweeper if you still got the wheels.
Yeah. There's something you could do, right? But I knew there was a cap. And when I switched to YouTube and I switched to casting in particular, but YouTube and casting, like, I don't see why that has to stop ever. Like, I honestly think you could just get better at that. And, the best announcers are like 60 years old, right? Doing the NBA finals and all this stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't think we've just lived enough time to see YouTubers like Mr. Beast or PewDiePie become 50. I do really think that there's this incredible journey. So I plan for that. I balance my life out like that. I don't rush it. I don't feel the pressure to do it, not against anybody who does, but I've always really felt that balancing life makes you the best version of you possible. And then that means you're doing great work whenever you show up. So, your compliment is greatest compliment I can get, that it's at that next level. I hope so. And, intentionally trying to make sure I don't do stuff that isn't good, because I know it's not good before anybody else tells me, if I'm in that place, and I try to just not create from that place as much as I can.
Nice. Well, I know you were talking about your dad kind of going around, you as well going around. Way to show him that USA still has some soccer skills.
I had to show him.
But of course, esports and gaming, they've become really mainstream over the years and everything like that.
Yeah.
So, but in esports, you often see it bridge the gap between different cultures, especially there at Apex. You do the world. So, my question to you, Evan, is this: how have you encountered any unique experiences or interactions that highlight that global impact from esports?
Mm.
And is there anything that sticks out from your time of casting, on this world stage that will just stick with you for the rest of your life?
Wow, that's a beautiful question. I First of all, in Apex, we have such a great scene that loves celebrating the game, and the game is so good that it has brought the entire world's attention to one focal point, and that's special. That's why you never should discount a game that can do that, that can have hundreds of millions of players. I mean, it means that it touched something that's almost like universal, right? In any language, in any place that you live, there's something about this that people enjoy. So for that, I love that aspect that we have such a global game. In the ALGS, we have moments that you get to really see the fandom. And I think that's COVID, cutting off a few of the years we would have been doing events in places. It was unfortunate, but now it's really exciting to be able to go to Sweden, to go to London twice, and for a third time in September. People maybe Japan one of these days. I think that when I see in South America the love and the camaraderie that you can look at that, and when they lose, they didn't make it into the winners finals or the championship day, and it was one of the first times that hadn't happened. But I made this comment to one of my co-casters, like, what's different about South America is they would be cheering for whatever team represented South America there, even if it wasn't them. And, it's not often you would see like NRG fans cheer on TSM if NRG didn't make it. And I thought, well, that's a beautiful thing about South America and the camaraderie and the way that continent exists. I have so many friends there. And then you look at APAC North. And, from Japan to China to, these teams and the incredible, I don't want to say giddy, so that sounds bad, but I was in elevators with Riddle Order, and they were, barely kind of getting their English out. And I was barely speaking to them too, because I certainly didn't know Japanese. And there was just this excitement. It was like, we're here. We're here to play. We're so excited to be in there. And I was just like, wow, that is passion. That is something that is just so infectious to be around. So, being on the world stage with it, I love seeing how every culture practices, thinks about the game. We will see APAC North teams specifically and South American teams specifically. They will huddle up. They will all meet together and share information after these days. And they'll, be at a restaurant or something. And it's like everyone is here to help each other grow. And then you'll see some teams, they won't even be around in public, right? They go right back to their individual training camp. Everybody's got a different style. But that's what's beautiful when you put them, together on the same stage to see which one is going to win. So I love it. It's really amazing. And I think that lesson that there are different ways to do things and still be successful. And there's different parts of the world that think completely differently. But if you can appreciate what they do differently, there's so much to gain. That part that the ALGS teaches us. And if you're ever in a LAN and you see it, I think that's something you should carry on, and I carry on with me for the rest of my life for sure.
Nice. Well, you did touch on, TSM and stuff. And I think it's safe to say if you're not a TSM fan, you look at Imperial Howl and you're just like, you're the bane of my existence because you're normally what stops my team from going.
Yeah.
So shout out though to TSM and Howl and everybody. Amazing showing normally a masterclass on how to play Apex Legends.
Yeah. Yeah, they're a great team. I mean, when you look at TSM, I don't really think of a lot of teams in a lot of spaces that could replicate the results that they've had. And we talk about Zero winning again, and 3 out of 4 lands is pretty unbelievable. He's at a different team, but so is Hal. You know, Hal's earlier teams were different and included Mac, you know, Aberlelli and Reps and him. And, you know, he's had Verhulst as well on different wins. And, you know, Hal has been the staple, you know, and Reps too, you have to give him credit of keeping a tone to that team that is relentless, unwavering, and infectious to its fandom and its history. Like this seriousness and need to win that Hal and this team represents. It's not just an Apex thing. It's kind of like an esports thing now. Like I think in terms of esports represents this like determined mindset that, you know, has made him such a big star. And people know he doesn't care about what you think. He just wants to win, and he'll do anything he can to do it. That's a beautiful, beautiful thing. So I love that they're in, you know, our groups. It's hard not to talk about them all the time. There's a lot of other great stories in the ALGS, but, you know, you always have to tip your hat off. I always tried to, because you got to recognize greatness, you know, when it's in front of you. You know what I mean? Not when it's done.
Yeah, do want to, when we talk about tipping our hats here, tip my hat. I don't think he'll ever watch this, but his Watson, I hope you're enjoying retirement, man. Great year last year, MVP and everything like that. And I understand, we talked about burnout earlier and just that mental game. So glad he's taking the steps to regain his happiness and stuff from, you know, watching his streams here lately and stuff like that. He definitely seems like he's recaptured that love for Apex, just kind of going back to pubs and everything like that. So I do want to tip my hat to him as well.
I mean, you gotta understand, man, like, it is a lot. Games are fun when they're your hobby, and you're like a good job. You know, you hope a good job combines 80% fun, but there's always 20% of it, even at the best job, that requires you to do a little bit of something you don't want to do in order to do the other 80%. And these gamers, they just get no love from the public. Like, if they're sad, if they're upset, if they're going through it, if they're tired, no one gives them any love. It's like, dude, you play games for a living. And it is a tough place to reconcile. And if you're not strong internally, and not saying that his Watson isn't, but if you haven't experienced that before and it's like a new thing, it could be challenging. And I've seen players take space, figure it out, you know, get away from the pressure and come back revitalized. I mean, new people. And look at Designful. I mean, he literally quit in Sweden basically after that LAN performance, and then now he's in the championships with It's Timmy, you know, and Enemy. It's like, this is an insane story for him too. And it goes to show that his Watson could be that Designful tale next year too. So look out. You know, I don't think this is the last that we've seen of his Watson in the ALGS. That's just my gut feeling.
Yeah, and another, I'm blanking on his name, but the gentleman from Complexity, you know, Monsoon, another great story. If for anybody watching, if you don't know Monsoon from Complexity, go look him up, look up some of his bio and stuff like that. Great story to check out, and very inspirational as well. Now,
yeah, great chef too.
Oh,
I haven't tried his cooking. He hasn't offered to cook for me. So, you know, Mon, what's going on?
See, maybe we can get him in. I'll just sit back and y'all two can talk the whole time, and you can ask him, hey, what's the deal? How come I can't get broke off some of this food here? Now, my next question though, it does say, you know, we've been kind of going back and forth here with podcasting and everything like that. You said yourself, you have a podcast going. Sometimes you got to think on your feet and stuff like that. And again, I had that mental lapse earlier where I forgot it.
I'll never forgive you for that.
I'm sorry.
I'm just kidding.
But just casting, of course, that does require quick thinking and analysis. So how do you prepare yourself mentally before going live or recording a podcast to ensure that you're providing insightful commentary during all these matches? Especially with the roster mania that goes on with Apex at times.
Okay. Here's how I think about it. Okay. First of all, everyone prepares differently. I know certain talent friends of mine, they will prepare Word documents, Excel sheets for months in advance. I can't do that. I don't function that way. That doesn't work for me. And it's not that it's a bad way. It works really well for them. For me, I know that when I am speaking in the moment and reacting to people, oftentimes the best entertainment, the best television, the best esports event, in my experience, is when the energy of the broadcast flows. Like, for instance, if you see that bounce, that back and forth, that conversation, it feels lively. It feels like everyone's engaging. It feels like, but maybe you challenge that question because it creates this interesting moment. Whoa, I didn't expect that. And it bounces back, and you kind of keep people on their toes, but with interest and with fun, a little bit of charm. That to me makes people go, I like watching the desk, or I like listening to this cast. And then you get back on track, right? Because then you got your leaderboards, you've got your things that you've got to say. If I prepare a lot of documents, it's 10,000 stats, and this, trust me, I've done this before, and like trying to figure out my style, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. What happens is then you look for the moment to say the stat you've prepared, and the moment doesn't come because production goes, guys, we need you to fill for 3 minutes, but we're going to play this, VT, which is going to be 2.5 minutes. And I want you to react on the back of that. And then we're going to tell you if leaderboards are ready. And so you go, and then you're like, you got a stat about the final circle, but now we need you to talk about it's Timmy, right? So your whole prep is gone. And if that's what you're relying on, then you're not going to be ready for that moment. And as a host and as someone who, my training at high res was very much fill. I learned to fill all the time. So there's literally nothing that can almost go wrong. Like at LAN, we filled for 45 minutes on air. And I think it took an hour and a half to start the main game. And we had nothing to go off of, no games, but Dia and I think Dia handled that incredibly well, but that's my bread and butter. Like I can do that. And so for me, my prep is in a different way. All to say that, for 7-8 weeks, I changed my diet completely. We're adults. We have adult beverages here and there. I stopped having any of those at all, not even just for I'm getting married this year too. So there's a lot of fun little things we're doing. I just know I started eating differently, focusing on sleep, gym. I got my outfits right. Cause when I feel good and I feel like I've got everything together, like then my brain can relax on that. I started noticing that, and I learned this in school, like getting a good night's sleep, relaxing, doing a little bit of studying, but not overwhelming myself, trying to remember everything. I perform better on those tests than when I crammed all the way up until it. So I've carried what's worked for me into casting, and that has helped me develop my own rhythm. I try to stay out of drama. I don't worry about, I kind of stopped talking a lot to my people. Like I get very short texts, like and my family and like my, fiance, they all know like I'm kind of working. So I limit distractions and then I go on and I try to be as present as possible. And that is how I found success for me. I know other people could not do it that way. And I know people, they need to know what they're going to say. And they say when it's on camera, it's great, Cody. But for me, I've always known that, I have to trust my intuition on what is going to put the best version of Raynday out there, so he can be who he needs to be. And that's how I found it so far. And it might change later. You know what I mean? It's not that I can't do a Google sheet here and there, but in terms of the big picture, that's always how I prep, and then I see what comes out.
Now, you mentioned tossing back and forth. I do want to say your video where you talked about tossing and the mess up that you had at the Paladins World and how you'll never do.
Yeah.
I have shown that to my co-caster, PB, several times to help like perfect our casting. We went back and looked at that, and that video alone has helped us become so much better as casters. And of course, we do Call of Duty and we do Rocket League,
right?
But you're able to take that same dynamic and apply it elsewhere. So you don't even know it, but you've had a great hand in molding us into the casters that we've become.
Well, I love that story, man. Thank you for sharing that. That really means a lot. That video, I had another moment where someone came up. I was in Atlanta doing an event with Mountain Dew and the HBCU colleges, and this person came up and said, hey, I'm like, hey, it's like, you don't know me, but I've used your video to teach my students, my teenage students at my, my high school who are in the esports program. I'm like, what video, first of all? And then we had that talk. And so now I know very much about that video that you're talking about. He's used it, and it really inspired me to be like, you know what? That video was a result of at high res and my training. I always say, Cody, I did this master class at high res where we would have 10 casters every morning come in, and we had 3 different leagues to cast almost every day, 5 days a week, 8 hours a day. And when we were done, we would go in and then the cast would be up. And this was our job. Like, so we're all critiquing everyone's cast all the time. And at events, sometimes you could barely hear the cast, like, and there's so much going on in the crowd. In this work environment, it was like crystal clear. And we would do these feedback sessions, and these notes were notes I got or gave or things I learned. And I realized there's really not a lot of that in the esports infrastructure. It's kind of like sink or swim. And so it's inspired me. Your words really inspire me. I feel like there's more desire for stuff like that. I've thought about doing more videos, or even a course on esports and casting, just from my perspective, because even if it helps a few people, right? I mean, that's pretty game changing if people are doing it as a career. So I love that, and thank you again for reminding me of that. Maybe I'll look at that a little bit more seriously later this year.
I definitely recommend it. Like you said, there's not very much out there in that aspect, and just that one video alone has helped mold us. Now,
what one thing? Let me ask you this question: what one thing do you think made the biggest difference that you noticed? Was it that toss thing at the end?
Definitely the toss. We were, the first time we casted, we were speaking over each other, and I have this inflection way of talking where I get kind of, and then I go down, and I would dead drop on him, where instead of building him up, I was just like, and there's so-and-so.
Right. And he'd have to take it back up.
Yeah. And then he would do it to me, and we were like, man, it doesn't feel right. And then I watched your video, and I was like, that's it. That's exactly what is going on with us. And we practiced it.
Wow.
Where we were, again, we're Call of Duty casters first and foremost. So it's like, when the Call of Duty cast, we'd get on, we'd mute the cast, and we'd cast it with each other just as practice. And it really helped. And
oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, and I believe that's another tip that you gave in one of your videos, is doing just that.
Yeah, man. Honestly, working with your partner, I've been really privileged to have just great casting team members throughout my time learning. And I had the privilege of casting with one of my very good friends, who still working in games, but he's left high res now. Pretty Hair, who we just did so much time together that we could really start to work on those things. And it's tough in maybe more of the esports world, where you are just taking different jobs and casting with different people. But there's this magic that's hard to replicate when you have a pair that works on those things, that knows each other, that's kind of friends, that has these inside jokes. But then here's the thing that I always loved about what Nick and I would do. We would have so many jokes. We would have so many of this. We'd understand each other. We were in studios. We could develop the body language stuff. We'd make mistakes. We'd learn from it. We'd have chances to talk. But then we were always honoring the game. And I think when a casting pair, like, elevation for me in terms of casting is when you can be honoring the game, but then also have fun for a second, and then joke a little bit, maybe, be a little sarcastic, and move right back into the seriousness of the moment. And to me, that's dynamic. That's like special. I don't know a lot of people that can do that. And so, for me in Apex, I love all of my crew, but I've really focused on trying to shift into becoming the best host that I can, and casting when I need to help the team. But I do miss the like dedicated pair learning process that you seem like you have with PB, Cody. So I'm a little jealous. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, and that also, hopefully we're going to be taking that to the next level once we both graduate full sail.
Okay.
So we're both full sail Armada students right now
Is
in
that a
broadcasting and stuff.
full set? Wait, so tell me what is that? I never heard of full sail.
Full Sail University out of
Okay.
Florida.
In
Uh,
Florida. Yeah. Okay.
yeah, I'm actually taking their sports broadcasting program, which is
Wow.
through. Oh man, he's been on ESPN. I'm sorry, I'm blanking out. Not Rich Eisen. No, there's a gentleman from ESPN who
Uh-huh.
now is with Fox Sports One.
Dan Patrick.
Thank you, Dan Patrick. Jeez, I could not think of that.
Uh,
He has helped develop this program, and from what I've seen and talking with the staff and looking at former alumni, that this is where my heart is telling me it's leading me in my life path here. And
I love that.
I was talking with them and I was like, my main thing isn't really so much sports. I love sports. I have a whole shelf dedicated over here that my wife allows me to have that has all my sports stuff. But I was like, for me, it's esports. And I talked with them and their instructors and stuff. And they said, we don't mind if, when these projects are due, you take some of that esports. It's still competitive. You still have to do play and everything like that. So they're going to allow me to, bless you, they're going to allow me
Thanks.
to, pursue what I actually love and enjoy while still blending that with getting a bachelor's, because it is advanced as well. So it's 2 years
Right.
for a bachelor's instead of 4 years.
Wow. That is awesome. I mean, that's fantastic. And I think ultimately you are setting yourself up for success in a lot of different ways, because it is noticeable when someone's done training. Like we've got a really, really good friend that used to teach us all at High Res too. I mean, we had this eclectic group, but he had done a full broadcast degree and he had worked in radio for Pittsburgh baseball. And he knew all these things that you'd never know, but they were such things that are so core to even how I move through how I stand, how I put my hands when I'm, it's like little things that, you don't learn in esports right now. You just exist or you try to make it in it's kind of like sink or swim, but so valuable. So if that's the stuff that you're doing, man, I think you're really putting yourself into a great position. That's exciting.
Well, I do appreciate it.
Yeah.
Now, Evan, as a caster and content creator, you've had the opportunity to cover various esports events. Which event or moment stands out as the most memorable for you in both Paladins and Apex Legends?
Well, I think for me, the most memorable moment in terms of Paladins was being able to, I think for Paladins specifically, our first world championship was probably the most interesting one. The one in that video, it was the first like foray into having that limelight moment. It wasn't exactly what I thought it was, but I just remember being so excited, and it was the first time we were in front of people doing this with it felt big. It felt big for the first time. And I had so much fun at all the LAN events we did in Paladins. I think DreamHack Valencia was really fun too. But, I think nothing stands out from a casting perspective more so than our world championships with Nick. And the first one we did is always going to have a very special, place in my heart. For Apex, I think it has to be, there's two. There's definitely one moment on stage that I felt the most, and it was last year's championships. And I felt that I felt the swelling of emotion because we had invested so much into the game, and we had done it in the hardest of circumstances where you don't get any of the benefit, you don't see anybody watching, that you don't connect to any of the viewers or the people who are passionate about it. And it turns out you guys were there, everyone was there, which is what makes it so insane to see the love in the stadiums, even in a place like England or Raleigh. But championships felt, when I was doing that close, as all of the members of talent were walking up onto the stage, those who were casting, those who were off in the green room, and they were walking up behind the desk and kind of hugging each other. And I was giving this close. I felt like we did it. And I felt like we made it through. We put on the show. We went through all those years where we did shows during, marches, and we did shows during pandemics, and we did shows during, uncertainty and to war-torn, things in the US. And I really felt that it was like some type of like hill that we finally were able to climb and plant our flag on. Like, we were here, we did it. And that was definitely the most memorable moment for me from that. I will, it's funny. I'll go back to, and I'll say for Paladins, it was that. The other moment was when I left and on broadcast, my very last broadcast. That was probably, when I really think about it, my most memorable moment there, because that was also a moment of ending. And, I ended up tearing up. It was with Nick. It was our finals. I ran back onto the desk as well with my friends, and we gave him a never give up, never stop gaming. We'll see you next time. And I think it's still his header photo on his Twitter profile. But it was just, I'm a very sentimental guy, and I look back at you do all that to have that moment, and you look back at it and you go, we did our best, we did everything we could, and we put on the show. To me, that's the romance of it. It's like, and it was this great moment in time, and it's gone now. It'll never be back, but it was special. And all the things we had to do to get to that place were great. So, thanks for asking that question. And those are definitely the moments that stand out. I wonder if championships this year will give me another moment like that. I don't know. I'm excited to see if that's the case.
Yeah, you did mention, like, through COVID, through everything else.
Yeah.
Apex came out really at this weird time of right when the momentum for the game, and of course it came out, and then it had a battle war zone, and people had to find out about it, and then the competitive nature had to go, and then of course COVID hit and all this kind of stuff. So to see players continue to put their all into it, see y'all continue with the production of it, man, it's great to see. Again, I'm a huge esports fan. This past weekend for myself was like next level, because we had Championship Sunday for Halo, then we had day one of the Valorant World Championships. We had Rocket League wild card weekend. Just as an esports fan, I was in heaven. So to see y'all continue on through everything and continue to put this product out has been amazing. And
yeah, it's not just me. There is an incredible team that no one sees at all. Us talent we definitely are in the trenches, but there's also just this amazing team behind the scenes too. So it was a labor of love, I will say. I'm just happy we all got through it.
I'm gonna rewind just a little bit here. We talked about the last moment there at Paladins. What was the very first moment for casting for you, and what made you fall in love with it?
My first actual cast was DreamHack Sweden. I mean, what a journey, right? Like, out of my parents' bedroom making YouTube videos, or not my parents, really. At that time, it was my parents' house, my bedroom. There was a moment I was doing videos outside of my parents' living room every Tuesday, 7 p.m. when they went out for this little, like, they had like a dinner or something, and I would stream to my 7 viewers. But I literally, when I was just transitioning into high res, it was like one broadcast, another broadcast, fly you out. We want to hire you that day. We didn't tell you we're going to hire you. We just told you we're giving you a studio tour. Decide I'm doing it. Next thing coming up is DreamHack Sweden. And honestly, like, I was very confident. Like, I've been in front of groups before, but I didn't know what it would be like to in person, see what the like vibe would be like. And DreamHack, if you've ever been at DreamHack, it's very, for a lot of the games, if you're not Counter-Strike, for a lot of the games, it's pretty casual. Like people come, they sit, they chill, they leave. It's not like, oh, what is this guy going to say? Oh, he messed up big time. It's like, so it was actually a really nice way to, get my feet wet in the industry. But I remember, I don't even have this notebook, but I remember I wrote down like 100 things that I could talk about. Like I was like, champions, okay, now cards, okay, now maps, okay, now meta, okay, now, and I just had 100 different thoughts, and some were questions, some were just opinions, some were thoughts, like in between, like just let's get into theory crafting, what ifs. And I just was so prepared, and I remember that helped me a lot too. So I was very happy that I did that. But it was the first time I really got to experience esports, and I definitely fell in love with the environment. Saw some of my first fans ever in real life at that point. I look like a baby with my haircut. I remember. I remember I had like a little mohawk and then like a line through my hair. I was all over the place, but it was really wonderful. And I think if I had had a different experience to start, maybe I would have. I don't know, but that definitely kept the fantasy up for me. And I was like, I need more of that. I need more international fun things. So that was great.
Yeah, I know players talk about the dopamine that they get off of the high off of that championship rush. So I can only imagine what that is like. I've played in bands. My co-caster PB, he's been signed to a major band before and done
nice
world tours. So we have a similar idea, but not to that level yet. Yet
it's happening.
I hope so. Hopefully one day we shall see. But of course, we did talk about, or you mentioned at least, making the YouTube videos. Now YouTube now has changed so dramatically, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, 2012 is when you started full-timing making YouTube videos.
Yeah, that sounds about right. That sounds about, because I think it was like maybe 2 or 3 years before I went to high res, which probably was about 2012. Yeah, 2013. Because I went to high res in like 2016. So, yeah.
Now, what would you say to that kid making those videos there, and the expansion of YouTube also? How do you see YouTube playing a big part in esports going forward?
You know what? It's interesting. I'm a bit of a unicorn, and it's because I went backwards, but there's not a lot of content creators who are also esports casters, and there's not a lot of esports casters who even really know how to make content or care to. It's more about care to, because they've got great personalities. It's just that they're already have a job. Like most people don't need to do two things, right? Like people are like, I'm good, I'm an esports caster, that's what I am, and I do some other stuff, but I don't need to do two jobs. And for me, I was always like, well, this job is going to lead to this job, and I don't want to give up either job, so let me do this, and now let me do this too. So I always like having little things, and I just push different levers. Like esports a lot, okay, not as many events, all right, let's do a lot of YouTube, and then not as many of that, oh, we have a lot of sponsorships. So that's how I've always thought about it. But I think in the future, content creators are going to become way more personalities. Personalities are also going to have to become content creators, at least if you want a sustainable kind of income for being an esports person, right? The benefits of broadcasting is, you get to have that show, you get some exposure, you get to, be a part of a community and tap in to, some hardcore fans that, you could then, if you're making content for them, find a hub. I mean, I've got some great friends who have just dedicated themselves to making content for a scene, even though they're not really content creators, but they're like, they want to do the podcast on the deep dive of the stats of the game. And you're like, okay, I'm into this. And it's like esports content. So I think I've experimented with that this year. I usually make beginner guides. I've always done that. I've always done new stuff, beginner guides, news, tips. It becomes harder when the game ages, though, to always have new players who don't know beginning things. So I asked myself this question: do I dive into Apex more or do I shift to widen my gaming approach now? And I think that's always a question. But I do think that this last year, I've really loved diving in more and going, okay, how can I make accessible content that's still diving deep and nuanced? And I felt like the 5 Rules series was a result of that. And, talking about, let's look at how, and let's have a fun game of how, but let's make 5 tips about how, and how if you look at what he's doing, but then it's also getting you into the competitive, you're learning about competitive, so all of that for me was just a part of the process. And I think more and more these things are becoming integrated, and we're seeing it in Hollywood too. Actors are, they have 500,000 followers. Okay, well, sure. He can be a role. Like, let's talk to his agent. These things are starting to be big. And I think in esports, I've seen people say you can't host this gig unless you have 10, 15,000 Instagram followers. It's like, wow. Okay. So the more people know that and learn it, the more these skills will be intertwined, and they help everything,
Yeah, I definitely hear what you're saying. We see it, especially some of the esports athletes as well are starting to push their own Twitch, their own the new one, Kick, everything like that. YouTube.
Oh yeah.
And that really helps also sustain them. You want to see them be able to perform, and to where not everybody is winning all these tournaments and stuff, getting all that money. Some of the lower seeds, I've talked with a lot of challengers players, especially casting the challengers stuff, and for some of them, I guess fan support is what I would call it, that they obtain through their Twitch, through subscribers, through that, is what allows them to kind of be carefree. They can work a part-time job instead of having to work a full-time job and push that. So that content game, because that's essentially what it is. It's a whole new ball game through content. Has to be something, especially for the I don't want to call them lower tier. But that's all that keeps the developmental guys that are still developing their skills.
They're in process of getting to that place where that can just sustain them. And the truth is, one of these things could sustain me, but I don't want to just do one. And, what if the next day something stops, like we had COVID happen, like who knows? Like, having as many options and routes is great. Like I write too, you know what I mean? Like I have many different things that I want to put my time into. So I always suggest that players do it. And, I wouldn't tell people to do anything I'm not doing myself. And I think that is something that I've found tremendous value from, and has helped me to stay, you're right, like not burnt out. And also, if one thing doesn't happen for a while, not like, oh, well, now I got to go get a full-time job again. You know what I mean? I've been blessed in that regard. So great advice for sure, Cody. I think you're right on the money with that one. And I'd love to see players do that more and more.
Now with the change here in ranked play from Apex and everything like that, put you on the hot seat here. We've seen a lot of the competitive guys kind of angry at the new rank system there in meta. And again, this is the only game out right now where I think it's 85 to 90% of the player ranking is in Masters right now.
Right.
You have seen Apex from its inception into this.
Yep.
Where do you see this game going in the future, and how is it going to be easier, or how are you going to be able to find that raw talent in the pool if 85 to 90% of your gameplay is in that master, that top tier?
Yeah. I mean, you bring up 2 separate, very good issues that I think Apex is trying to address right now. One, the fact that we had so many masters last season is not a representation of true player skill, obviously. And so that system is constantly being tweaked. I have a position that isn't going to be as dramatic, but will help someone who's dealing with a lot of frustration, is that it's ebbs and flows. I mean, this game has seen ups and downs, and it has continued to be a game that millions of people play every day, and they will continue to play it. Those aren't necessarily the metrics, unfortunately, that stop a game like that. And I've been in a game development cycle that had tons of players but made no money, and that's what stops That's what actually stops a game from being able to pay their designers, pay their things. And that's fortunately, people don't realize Apex is a unicorn. That top 10 Steam list has been that way for many, many years. And Apex broke into it. It's a top 4, top 5 game nearly all the time, with 200,000 to 400,000 concurrents. And that is insane. That is incredible. So, and that's just on Steam. So I think that patience, all things are handled with time. Generally, if something is not good, they make a pretty good correction. That's what I've seen with Apex. Pretty good. They're also not a developer that rushes things. So if you have an issue, they're going to wait till the next season, or they're going to wait till the mid-season, typically, unless it's truly broken, until they change it. And I think with this, with the Ring and with Ranked, they need to get the information on, is this the right direction, or do we need to change it? And one thing I know, having talked to I believe it's Evan, but he is very willing to change something if it doesn't work. And I think that is all you can ask for a designer, because we do ask for Apex to keep surprising us and giving us something new and taking us in a new direction. And that is not something you can really say has no response. I mean, it has an incredible amount of responsibility attached to continually trying to surprise this huge group of players and deliver and over deliver. So sometimes with that, you got to do something different. And if it works, awesome. You're the king. If it doesn't work, have the humility to go, it's not working, and change it. And what they're doing is exactly that. So I get the players are frustrated. It is frustrating in the moment, but big picture, I don't think people are going to, the second it becomes exactly what they want again, they're going to be happy, right? So, big picture, let's pull back. Apex has done well, and I think it's going to continue to do well and find its way, even if, it's got to experience some growing pains, but rather that than staying stagnant, to me.
Now, just to speak of the love of this game and everything like that, we see some of the Call of Duty pros like Scump and Kenny and some of the, especially the Optic guys, as
they're
well
playing
as,
right now. Yeah.
the LA Thieves guys. A lot of these guys are switching during the off season from Call of Duty
That's right.
to Apex. So again, that goes to show the greatness of this game and its popularity.
I mean, we had a game. I mean, I just have such an interesting, being from that side of the designer side. You are praying. I mean, you know how many games that come out all these games come out, and like people play for a week, and then the next game comes out. To have a game that comes out that isn't even planned, that just launches 2 days later, and to have 100 million players and downloads, and to have this many concurrents and $1 billion in revenue over a year. And like, this is insane. Like, this is the dream. This is it. This is what everyone's been waiting for. Any studio wants this. So I always look at what's going on with Apex from that perspective, because from the game dev side, it's like making a World of Warcraft or like a Diablo for the first time. You're like, dude, this is a jackpot. Like, let's keep, this is a bait. We got to treat this like this is everything. So the one great thing is that for Apex players, we get a ton of resources. We get a lot of focus and attention. It means our esport is supported. It means there's just a lot of things that everyone can win off a successful game. So it's a beautiful thing to see. And I think that Apex is it's just been blessed. I mean, I'm blessed that Apex came around. It's certainly changed my life. I know yours, and I'm sure many of these players. Some bumps in the road, but I'm overall always grateful for what Apex has done and continues to do in the gaming space.
Nice. Well, we've seen, like, previously in the past, we mentioned TSM, but we've seen some a TSM skin in the game and everything like that. It's honestly one of my favorite things about Apex is with some other games, like the old Star Wars shooter, some of the Call of Duty, you can buy a certain pack and you've got tracer rounds and stuff like that, where it's almost like a pay to win. Where Apex has kept it, look, our microtransactions is skins for our characters, skins for our games, and maybe you get some crafting and an heirloom. But beyond that, bring your gun skill. And that's been my favorite thing about them. But could we possibly see down the line, because, hey, I'll be honest, if you put out a Optic skin. I'm a big Optic fan. Again, I'm from Texas,
Yeah.
so I would snatch up that Optic skin in a heartbeat. Is that something we
Right.
can maybe look forward to down the line? Do you have any inside information you could drop on us?
Well, listen, no insight. So this is all speculative, but having seen that side from a different company and also just my intuition, it has nothing to do with the actual desire to do that. It has probably a lot to do with marketing and legal, and it's well out of, I think, design. I think it's well out of the people who are actually making the game, because you get into money, you get into profit sharing, and you get into things that that people now have a hand in when it comes to the bankroll. So I think that ultimately I'd love to see more collaborations like that. What it's going to take, though, is a mutual benefit from everyone. Like, that deal. Like, I feel like once this really happens and it truly becomes like the status quo, it will change the industry forever. And I'm not sure the industry needs that yet. I think esports needs that more from the industry. And I'm not sure the industry still has that awareness. I think EA's pretty good about it. I think they've always taken care of their esports really well. I've worked Madden, I've worked FIFA, I've worked, so I think EA does it really well. But some people, they don't connect how valuable esports are to their game making money, right? Or their community being thriving. So until that fully shifts, I think we're probably going to see a lot of these conversations not proceed to the next level. But when it does happen, it's going to be like Jordan when he got Nike to give him proceeds over like shoes, and it changed the whole game. Like they never gave players the money for each shoe sold, and now that's completely, that opened the floodgates. So now when you have teams able to get money for skins being sold and not flat fees, that will open up an insane amount of revenue, but that will also be revenue that could have gone to the game, and I'm not sure they're ready to make that step yet. So we'll see. I don't know what will push them to that, Cody. I really don't know, but yeah, I don't necessarily see it there. I think it'll take like literally, I think it'll take like an EA or an Epic Games or somebody like that big to just do it and make it status quo, and then the industry will probably follow suit.
Nice. Yeah, because that's something, as a casual fan who is a little bit more than casual. It's something that I
You don't strike me as casual, Cody. For some reason, you don't strike me as casual.
Yeah, but I guess as your everyday fan for these esports teams, it's something that I wish for. But you don't think about the whole dynamic of now you're dealing with separate entities, separate properties per team.
Yeah.
And especially in a game like Apex, which is worldwide, and so many, especially with the opening up of Apex to the challenger side and everything like that. Then you're in a whole new ball game,
You're in a whole new ball game,
yeah,
whole new thing. I
mean, that's something you don't think of.
Who like, what if who's in the league, right? Like who gets the skins, right? Because is it BR Demons who maybe they come in third, right? But they just are like an org of like three dudes who decided to make that org, but they're in the ALGS. Does that mean they get a skin? Are they making, $1 million off of like it? The ideas are kind of, from that perspective, a little crazy. And also, who's greenlighting that, and who's winning in the legal battle? Because it's like everyone wants to, see these contracts. It's like in perpetuity throughout the universe forever. Everyone's trying to make sure that they win, right? So it'll take a second, but I'll buy a skin when it happens. I'll buy a skin too, Cody. If they put that optic skin in there or something, I'll grab one of those too.
Gotcha. Well, again, I can't thank you enough. I know you even gave me an extra 20 minutes, man. I can't. Episode 1 has set the bar so high for this podcast, and it can't. I can't thank you enough. I'm speechless when it comes to my gratitude. I can't say it enough. And not only for doing this podcast, but for everything from, when I was trying to learn how to play Smite and you were putting out Smite videos and stuff.
Wow.
For those that don't know, go back and I'm not sure if it's still in the YouTube catalog, but you've
Oh, it's in there. All my Smite stuff. It's in there.
yeah. And again, a little personal shout out to my friend Daniel Smiley. I hope you're enjoying your vacation right now in Vegas, but he is the reason I got into Smite, and I was terrible at it. So I watched many of your videos back in the day for that as well. Uh, but
Some of my favorite videos ever, man. I love that time in Smite. That's so formative for me.
now, my final question to you is this: for that person sitting at home right now
Mm.
who has been listening to us and now thinking, man, I think I could maybe be a host, or maybe I want to do YouTube videos, or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
They now are inclined to try it.
Mhm.
What's your advice to them?
Well, my advice is to, if you're sitting at home and people have told you, you're funny, or you tend to take that role of presenting, or commentating even over your friends playing sports or board games, there's definitely some room for you. You might be talented at this, and it's worth going after it. I think for YouTube, the reason I always push it is because that's how I got into hosting, and that's how I practiced speaking, and being honest and going with the flow. And I think that's one of a very important thing in hosting and in commentary, being able to do a little improv and roll with the punches and not know what's going on and still turn a phrase and turn it into something interesting and valuable. So I suggest that if you're at home and you have the desire to do this, that you start. Journey of 1,000 steps starts with the first one, and YouTube is certainly a journey of 1,000, maybe 100,000, maybe 1,000,000 steps. But what I can guarantee is that in the process of walking that path, you will learn a lot, not just about yourself, but about other people, and maybe how they perceive you, maybe how you perceive what you're doing, and it's maybe not so good. And that's okay, because you could do it again and work on it and get better. And then that starts you being unafraid of people looking at you or thinking you're not good enough, and knowing, you know what, I am in this process of getting better. I'm better than I was when I started. That's what's good enough for me. And I keep that mentality in everything I do. Not every video bangs, not every cast is amazing. But when I look back 4 years ago, or I look back when I started, I am a completely different person. I can kick my old self's butt in terms of casting and hosting now. And I think as long as you keep that in mind, it is a worthwhile journey for anyone, because it is a journey of self-development. And that's my pitch on everyone should have a YouTube channel.
Nice. Well, again, we can't thank you enough. Hopefully, you have enjoyed episode 1 here at the Gamer's Edge podcast. Episode 2, we're going to be staying in the Apex realm, as Bo, aka Rambo, the 3-time MVP, will be joining us here for episode 2. Anything you want me to pass along to Rambo here from you?
You know what, Rambo? I miss you. I miss that long hair. I hope that you're having fun. I know it's summertime. I'm surprised you got him off the beach. I'm basically surprised you got him off a surfboard, and into some place with internet, because anything. If I know Rambo, he's on a beach somewhere all the time, and he's loving it. And so we love the infectious vibe. Send him my best, and you guys have a great one. Thanks for having me, Cody. Always fun to talk about esports and gaming, and the stuff that I love, and the stuff that I moving my life towards. So thank you for the opportunity, and good luck, man. Good luck on the podcast.
Thank you. You try and have a blessed day, and I can't thank you enough again for coming on. And Rambo just got off vacation. He was actually spearfishing and stuff here this past week, so right on the money with it.
I know.
But again, we'll see y'all next time, guys. Peace.